So first of all, hey, let's do this. Let's all take a deep breath. It's 5:33. We're all here now. We're so honored to have everybody show up. When I say that, believe me, we mean that. Let's take three deep breaths. You can do it at your own pace. Just start to use these breaths this is from Peter Russell, a teacher I've worked with who's amazing. He calls it an arriving meditation, and technically it might go more than three breaths, but the idea is that we're here and we're arriving. And that's sort of where that word present comes in a lot in the meditation mindfulness circles. You hear people talk about being present all the time. So I'm going to be quiet for about 15 seconds here and just take three breaths and just realize that we're all arriving. This is where we are right now. And we've all chosen to be here for a reason. And so just take a few moments now to arrive. And that could be the first lesson tonight of how powerful it is to just stop. Just stop. You know, your kids come to you at practice or the classroom. We have no idea where they've come from, what's on their minds. The idea of stopping alone is very powerful. So hopefully just that 15 seconds alone changed your state of mind. If not, hopefully the meditation will really kick in there. As I mentioned earlier, just super grateful. This is inspiring. When you hear Sheets and I talk about this, whether it's in a podcast or just with our tweets, it's as authentic as it gets. There's no show behind this, honestly. We both have been affected deeply by meditation, mental training, mental health. And once you connect with that world and you see the effect it has on you and it has on your kids, you want to share because you feel like we just all want this world, not to sound too corny, but the truth is we want this world to be a better place. We want the kids to be positioned to be healthier, happier, more at peace, more free, enjoy life, perform better. So that's the first thing I want to say. I have sort of a little metaphor that I wanted to also say, and then I'm going to kick it to Sheets for his welcoming, which is, I thought about this the other day, and I actually thought about on a tennis court yesterday too. I don't have any kids. I have three nephews and a niece. And I'm trying to say this in an objective way, which is a bit tricky, but if you were to drop one of your kids off at school tomorrow, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and you dropped your kid off, if you don't have kids like me, it was a nephew or a niece, and you dropped them off at school, and you knew when they went to school every single day for 15 minutes, they had a homeroom, let's say at 10 a.m., maybe not first thing in the morning when they might still be a bit tired. They had a homeroom for 15 minutes, and you knew in that homeroom was a very experienced meditation teacher or mindfulness teacher, someone that could teach them how to slow down, tune into their breathing, maybe let go of some distracting or anxietous thoughts. Like give them some tools, maybe do some visualization, but something every day for 15 minutes where they get a chance to stop and get quiet and breathe and hopefully maybe process some things that they're not otherwise processing so they can come to you for help. So I want you to visualize that. Now visualize that for the 240 days of the year, however many days they go to school. Every day for 15 minutes. They were with a very experienced meditation teacher, breathing teacher, coach that had some background in this field. Now, how do you feel when your kid comes home every day knowing that? If it was my niece and nephews, I can visualize my kids. Now, again, I've been in this field for 33 years, hashtag. So yes, I feel very connected to that, but I would hope anybody, even if you've never done any of this before, would say, sounds pretty good. I like that idea. I like when my kid comes home after school. That could be pretty profound on their life. I'm talking 6 years old, 10 years old, 12, doesn't matter. every single day. And so never want to put any guilt on any coaches that are here, but I want you to put that in perspective when the kids come to your practice every day, that parents have dropped their kids off to school, or they come from obviously the home, and they're with you for 2 hours or 3 hours. And you have a chance in that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to provide that environment. Now, a lot of times coaches come to this field because they want their team to get better and they want their players to perform better. And that's a great byproduct of this. But as you all know, we're at a point in life now. Well, I shouldn't say we're at a point in life. It's just a way of it just is life, that we always take care of the person before the athlete. That's a given. So I wanted to just sort of open with that, just to kind of put context into why this is that valuable, and why when you hear Sheets and I talking about this, it's straight passion, it's straight authenticity, because it's real. And I'll say one last thing and kick it over to Sheets. We've experienced the feedback. Sheets, maybe for the last 4 or 5 years, I've got 33 years of unbelievably consistent feedback from doing this across all genres. And so that's why we're here tonight. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to hang out, because you care, and what you do with it as you go away. I know you'll do your best. There's no guilt that you have to do anything, but we just want to plant the seed that for us, this is an absolute priority. There's nothing more important to do with your players in that 3-hour window. Sheets.
Yeah, I'll echo all that. Just so excited to be here with you. And I think Alan and I get passionate about this. And this is, I think the 3rd or 4th time we've done something like this, just because there's major interest. And I'm going to tell anyone, especially the coaches, like, I've been on every single side of this. I've been on the side as a young coach, or the first, 8, 9 years of my coaching career, and not knowing a single thing about meditation, mindfulness. The coach that, hey, I really wish my guys were mentally tough. And you just ask them to be mentally tough, but you don't give them a plan to be mentally tough. You don't have an exercise that allows them to recover from failure. They're competing with their default, which most of their defaults are immature in nature. And it's to Tanner from Bad News Bears: slam their bat, slam their glove down, go palms up. I don't know what to do. But we scream at them to be mentally tough. I've been on that side of the fence. Then I got indoctrinated by Dr. Ken Ravizza. I got knee deep in here with Alan. I started to understand that maybe there was a little different side of this. What's this meditation about? Let me explore it myself. Let me offer it a little up to our players, see if they like it, and started to see a little bit of effect, and the guys asking for it, me not really knowing what I was delivering to them. Definitely didn't see the bigger picture, but starting to understand there's something more to this. And then Alan and my friendship grew to, obviously, he's the best man in my wedding. The next one, Chelsea. But one of my best friends. But where this challenged me in the 4 years I got out of coaching was, if I were to go back, what's the one thing that you will prioritize over everything? And it's been this mental practice. And when Alan says every single day, we do this every single day, no matter what we're doing. We open our season tomorrow, and we're got a classroom session at 11:30. We'll start our meditation mindfulness at 11:40. We'll be done right at noon. It's a 20-minute session every day. Kids will stand up. We start BP at 12:30. Our kids wouldn't play without it. If I were to come out of classroom and say, hey, we're skipping mindfulness today and we're just going right to stretch, my kids would revolt. We've got them to a place where they need it. I talk about it as a gift. This is the gift, not only that your coaching staff, if you really want to prioritize showing your players your care level, that's a big word for me. and I'm going to show you my care level is that I'm going to take 20 minutes out of quote unquote my time as a coach, and I'm going to slot this mindfulness session every single day for you. Now, when we get down there as players and coaches, the gift that the players start to learn how to give to themselves is that they'll get out of it what they put into it. They'll dedicate themselves to this 20 minutes. They'll follow the guided meditation. They'll work. And ultimately, Alan, you will become what they practice. And the more that we give them this gift of 20 minutes, the first time, maybe some of your kids fall asleep. That's okay. Now you have an opportunity to talk about recovery sleep and how they're not getting enough sleep at night. And instead of talking smack to the 7-year-old kid from Taiwan, go to bed. Stop playing Call of Duty, right? Like turn the headset off, go to sleep so you can be here tomorrow and be fresh so we can rock and roll. And I think it opens up a variety of conversations that when you really want to open up the mental side of baseball or softball, if you really want to help them understand how to navigate adversity or navigate failure, to learn how to play the games, we always talk about eliminating the roller coaster, to learn how to play consistently, to learn how to be neutral, to learn how to move past things. Sue Inquist last night dropped on me to be a fast time traveler, to move past those moments and get right into the next one because you can't change it. And the more that we spend time in this, man, the compounding effect that this is having not only on their baseball career, but their lives. And I'll say this in a very, because I'm in the trust tree here with this group, in a very non-egotistical way. But if you want to look at a program that's winning and has dedicated themselves to this, guys, the proof is in the pudding at Georgia Gwinnett. We do this every single day. Our kids prioritize it. It has changed lives. It has changed the whole scope of our program. And we're not sacrificing anything. We're actually enhancing the product that gets on the field. Now, hopefully we'll win 2 games tomorrow. We'll see. But man, we will do this every day. And I just want, I think Alan, the same boat. We want to empower as many folks as we can to bring this into your program, to give this gift to your kids. And we know it's going to change your career. That's why we're here.
Love it, brother. Couple quick things, and then we're going to go to the how-to of the meditation, and then we're going to do the meditation. That's sort of where we're at. One thing is, I wrote this down as a note. Sometimes coaches are apprehensive. Are the kids going to be into it? What are the kids' reactions to it? I've been saying this a lot the last year whenever this comes up. I've probably been saying this for a long time, but the last year I've been saying it with teeth in it. The kids are starving for this. This is not a sort of kind of try it. They are starving. You look at what's gone on between technology and video games, COVID, there's so much stuff going on, and let's call it noise. I like to call it drama. That just the idea of stopping and breathing and getting quiet, not even going into meditation or mindfulness yet, just that is life changing. And at a very deep level within all of their beings and souls, it is starving, no matter what the exterior surface may tell you. They're starving. So that's number one. So you don't have to feel like, are they going to buy? No. Another good sell for the kids, in case you have some pushback, and you might. Mental skills are no different than physical skills. If you don't throw every day or take ground balls or fly balls or BP, what are you going to look like in a month? It's just application of skill development. And whether it's being quieter, clearer, more relaxed, less stress, less anxiety, less pressure, more present, less in the future, less in the past, these are skills. These are skills: concentration, focus, presence, dealing with distractions, skills. So the form of mental practice, so to speak, is skill development on top of many things. So that's another angle I've found in the past that you might help. And then Sheets already referred to it. One of my favorite lines that will come up, and it already came up without even me saying it, is Dr. Shauna Shapiro. She's actually one of the leaders in the world on mindfulness. I've been fortunate enough to do some retreats with her. She's a professor at Santa Clara University. You can look her up online. Dr. Shauna Shapiro. Um, you become what you practice. She also says what you practice gets stronger. I mean, you talk about a couple of bullet points to write down right away to share that with your kids and share it with yourself. You become what you practice. And as she said, based on research, so to speak, the average human being is probably practicing a lot of stuff with the future and the past and stuff out of their control and drama and distractions and old stuff that maybe they learned when they were 4 years old. So we have a lot of practice, so to speak, at the past. And so this is about a practice of letting go of maybe a lot of that stuff and getting quiet and maybe putting in some new stuff. As far as the how-to, Sheets and I talked about this earlier. We really want to get to the meditation and really want to get to the follow-up, the questions and the troubleshooting. I think that's where we both know there's a lot of value. So we're going to get to the meditation pretty quickly here. You might take some notes. These are the bullet points. I'll kick it over to Sheets before the meditation because he's been doing this every single day now for at least 2 or 3 years. So he's got an unbelievable pulse and feel on this. I'm not letting people, I'm gonna let one more person because we have a little break here in the action. So I just have to be prepared to mute him. So number one, I think that might be the last time I can do that. Okay, good. Get present. So these are your bullet points for your practice. And again, you'll make this your own, right? You'll create, and by the way, before I forget this, please start doing this with yourself. Start to feel what it's like to do this yourself. I'm telling you, there's a visceral reaction from the kids when that information is coming from somebody that's felt it and touched it and is doing it. Not that you can't do it with the kids if you've never done it before, but you all know where I'm going with that. If you're a pitching coach and you've been on the mound a long time and you talk pitching, there's a different feeling behind that experience. I would actually suggest more than anything just for your own life, for your own mental health and well-being. So number one is to get present. What does that mean in a nutshell? Well, we talked about this earlier with the arriving meditation. You know, our minds are going to tend to be maybe in something in the past or something in the future, right? Or some kind of distraction potentially when they get to practice. So the first thing you want to do is get them to the present moment. There's a few ways to do that. One is what I love is getting in the body. Because when you get in the body is not a thought. And the body is always in the present moment. So there's an instant connection, and this is very intuitive. There's an instant connection when you get into the body. From the body, eventually I go to the breath, but that's just a second way to get present, is just to go, of course, right to the breath. I shouldn't say of course, but I'm sure you know what I mean. So those are a couple of things right away, is to get them in the body and get them in the breath. And you'll see when I take you through this meditation, I'm going to spend a few extra minutes on that, and I think you're really going to enjoy getting in your body and out of the head and into the breath eventually, okay? Once you get them present, you want to really get them more into what we call this letting go mode. So that you want to start to get them to let go of stuff that's going on. That's part of being present, but we're going to take you through a little bit of bonus on the letting go piece. And rather than comment on that, it's better to do it, and we'll come back to that. Okay, so we're going to get present. We're going to get them to let go. Then that might take a couple of minutes, and then you're going to get them into some kind of an exercise or practice. Number one, the practice gives the mind somewhere to go, which is very helpful. And the practice for us does not involve thinking. It involves attention or awareness, which are not thoughts. You might make a bullet point about that. Attention and awareness are not thoughts. So when you're using your attention or your awareness, the great thing about that is you're not in a thought. And I'm sure this thing will come up more than once, but when you're in the zone, so to speak, you're in what's called a thoughtless state. In Zen, it's called no mind, no thought. So attention and awareness are great. We're going to get to the breath. And again, the breath serves many purposes. Part of it's being present, part of it by tuning into it with your attention can be very calming and relaxing. Part of it starts to get us into more of that presence and letting go. And so we'll do a little exercise with you tonight. Again, we'll do this afterward. I'm trying to really get to the practice and then we'll talk about it afterward. One exercise, a very basic one, is inhale 1, exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 4. So you can just count to 20. That might take 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, and don't worry, I'm going to review this one more time before we do it. And then the last part is the culminate. Oh, I'm sorry. So then after we do this little breathing exercise, always like to give them a few minutes to just have no structure. Yes, it might open them up to going back into their thinking a bit, but also you've set the tone for a few minutes. It hopefully will free them up to let go even more and get on a raft or get on a magic carpet ride or lay on the beach or just feel some peace and quiet they maybe haven't felt in a long time and they want to just do that. Imagine that you just feel really peaceful and quiet and you don't want to do anything. So we'll give them some free time and then we culminate, which is the transition out. And we'll talk about this later, but the transition out is still what we call a continuum. The meditation is still going, so to speak. They just happen to be opening their eyes. And that's pretty deep stuff that we'll get to maybe a little bit at the end. So let me repeat these parts. I'll give you some minutes to attach to it too. Again, as Sheets mentioned, this is one of the links in the mental practice plan. It takes you through 10 minutes of this sort of step-by-step. Getting present, let's call that 2 minutes. Okay, that's getting present, getting into the body. We're going to do 2 minutes of what I'm going to call letting go, and that'll make sense to you in a little bit. We're going to do 3 minutes or so of the counting to 20, inhale 1, exhale 2. Then I'm going to give you, let's call it 3 minutes. Now in a perfect world, I'd give you more like 10 or 15, but I'm going to give you about 3 minutes tonight of free time to just chill out. And then the culmination, I'm going to call that 2 more minutes. So I didn't do the math. I think that's about 11 minutes. And I will tell you this on the culmination. I'm not going to tell you it. Sheets, that's your one homework assignment, is to remind me after the meditation about the culmination. I will give you a hint. I say 2 minutes. When I've done deep meditations with groups, it takes me forever to get people to come out. And we'll talk about the why with that in a bit. Okay, so we're going to get you present. We're going to get you in the body. We're going to do some letting go. Again, don't worry. We'll talk about this afterward after you experience it. We're going to do a little breathing exercise. Inhale 1, exhale 2. We're going to count to 20. I'm going to give you a few minutes to chill. Then you're going to hear my voice come back in after it's quiet for those 3 minutes. And you're going to hear me give you some cues. So know when I start giving you the cues, we're probably a couple minutes away from finishing up the session. Now, again, you'll hear me with the last cue just say, at some point, open your eyes or whatever, as you're coming back, take your time and just feel free to open your eyes when you're ready. You'll hear me repeating this a few times. So just know you have a minute or so to come back. We don't want you to open your eyes and be shocked. We want you to come back smoothly. So that's the overview. That's what we're about to do. But I want to kick it back to Sheets for some observations from his experience or with regard to anything that we just went over.
Well, first of all, I have followed that plan precisely for 4 years. And one thing that Alan and I've talked a lot about is at times creating variety. And the way I'll kind of curtail that thought is, as a coach, you got to have feel. There's one thing you pray for tonight, pray for feel. Feel for people and feel for moments. And I think what the variety has done is I've tried to be, as I think I do, is be very in tune like the pulse of my team, the pulse of each player, I feel like I've got my finger on top of it. And so with that, what I mean by that is there's days that a quote unquote mindfulness guided meditation might be where I've got my players now. We're working on our black belts. We've sort of gone through the fall. We're getting pretty, fired up and we know what we're doing inside this session. We know how to navigate it. We know what we're trying to get out of it. And now we've gotten to a place where variety for me is I give them an open 20-minute window, probably because I talked a lot in classroom. They've heard my voice a lot that day. I don't need to continue to have them hear my voice. I'm going to give them a window. Alan and I've also talked on these about imagery and visualization. It's a great opportunity some days for variety to go to a visualization practice and have them step inside the batter's box or see themselves on the mound. I think part of what you find is it's interesting when you ask how do they see themselves when they dream or when they daydream or again when they visualize or they really get deep into these moments. What view are they looking out? Some of them look through a GoPro attached to their chest. Some of them see themselves from the rail of the dugout. And I think it's so interesting. The more that you start to understand the way that they view themselves, well, then it helps you coach them better. Because now, again, there's a way to work through that to understand, okay, well, man, from that perspective, how does that fit into your personality? Sometimes the guy that sees himself from the GoPro view, they only see the world through their eyes. They kind of have blinders on. I think sometimes folks that see themselves from the rail have immense awareness of who they are, what presence they bring, what other people may think of them. It's sometimes an indicator of personality when you start to ask those questions. But I think more than all this, as Alan takes us through this, if this group decided to stay together for a year and every single day, Alan, you took us through a guided meditation, what would happen over time is Alan as the moderator, you as the coach, when you continue this practice, you as the coach, you become incredibly in tune with each individual person that is in your meditation group. So much so that you'll know when their stomach, because we talk about diaphragmatic breathing, when their stomach rises and falls and it stays in this constant smooth rhythm, you can start to get in tune with your cues. I usually have, as Alan knows, I usually find one player and I do various cues off his rhythm. And eventually, over time, I turn that into the team's rhythm. So by the end of our season, I can assure you, if you stop by our place in April or May, you'll see 35 individuals meditating and everybody's stomach will rise and fall together because that's the power of communal meditation and mindfulness. But you as the coach, you as the moderator, you're so in tune with your players. If you see a guy and he's taking really short breaths, he's having a hard time slowing down. You see a guy that starts taking really slow breaths and it's maybe just very sporadic, that all of a sudden it's a big breath. The stomach rises and falls. He stands up and you ask him, "Hey, what happened in that spot, coach? I just noticed I was chasing a thought and I was way down this rabbit hole and I was way over here and I recognized it and I stopped and I went, nope, back to the breath, kind of clear the windshield, clear the whiteboard. Let me start over. Let me get back in this rhythm because you were watching, because you were paying attention, because you were in tune." There's so much power from this perspective that Alan's going to have that we want you to have as you lead your team, Alan. I hope that did you some justice.
Oh yeah, big time, always. And I'll add one other thing too, which is when you do the guided meditation, it affects you. That's not the main reason you're doing it, but I've been doing guided meditations for hashtag 33 years. Sorry, that's our joke between Sheets and I. But and one thing I love about doing the meditations, yeah, I'd rather, not rather, I'd like to also be on the ground, I should say. But I feel very lucky that when I do a guided meditation, that I've built an awareness over the years to where, yeah, it's affecting me. It's part of you become what you practice as well. So just know that there's some real benefits to teaching this as well. And not to get sidetracked, so I really want to get to the meditation, but for those of you that were on our last call, Sheets, the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season last year, which I think was a culmination of him getting heavier and heavier into the meditation with the
2 years
guys.
ago.
Sorry, 2 years ago.
Yep.
Um, I've been doing this for 33 years. I can't tell you many times I've felt like I was with somebody, working with someone, a friend, a teammate, where I could see and feel that they were in the zone, for a period of time. And Sheets, based on my definition or my experience with it, legitimately was in it for 3 or 4 weeks, and then for like the 2 weeks after the season ended. And it's just powerful, and I just believe a lot of that had to do with, part of it's just the big time culture and practice he becomes from his culture. But I think he's been meditating, as well with his players. So maybe at the end, Sheets, that's something we can come back to and
Yeah,
talk
for sure.
talk more about. Two tools. Please write these down. These are the two main tools that I've been teaching forever. Again, I feel like these are tools that apply to life. Literally, any time of day, these two tools apply. But they happen to be also the two key tools that I find for meditation. One is called neutrality. So the root word is neutral. And the second tool is called redirect attention. And that's a hint because earlier we talked about attention is not a thought, and neutrality is not a thought. And so I don't want to get too heavy into this because we're about to meditate, but I want to plant this seed with you before the meditation. If any thoughts come up, whether it's at the beginning, middle, or end, if any thoughts come up, I forgot to call Joe. I forgot to get this at the market. What time is this thing ending at? Not this thing. What time is this nice Zoom ending at? It's the first thing I want you to try to do. Now, this is part of the practice, is stop and be neutral. One of my favorite lines I've been using the last year is don't take the dance with your thoughts. So a thought comes up it could be about anything, literally. The idea is to stop, be neutral. Okay, neutral is not a thought. It's what we call the silent witness or the observer. It's like you're stepping back. Now, then where do you go now? Well, you can stay in neutral if that feels good, but you can also redirect your attention back to letting go or the breath or wherever part of the meditation you're in. But the main idea is this. It's to start noticing when thoughts come up, to step back and not take the dance and not engage the thoughts and get into that conversation with them. Okay? So for the next 10 minutes or so, that's going to be your main tool, is if anything comes up, maybe a distraction, maybe a thought, maybe the future, maybe the past, it's okay. That's another thing I want you to really get out of this tonight. Thoughts are not right or wrong or good or bad. Famous Zen philosopher Alan Watts calls them temporary mental constructions. So we want to just let them be. It's like if someone's calling you names and you don't call them names back, just let them be. And just give yourself so neutral. And then if you feel like you need to, then just redirect your attention back to wherever we are in the meditation. Hopefully you're redirecting your attention back to just chilling out. Okay? So let's do this. I actually have my bells here tonight. Let me do a quick test because sometimes they don't sound. How's that? Yeah? Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll do the bell at the beginning, then we'll start. And then as I do the culminating at the end, I'll ring the bell. And that way I want to be quiet and let you sort of come out at your own pace. And we'll give it a couple of minutes at the end because some people may come out longer than the others. Okay? Again, these are things that hard to cover all in one night, but kind of like, well, how do you sit? How do you lay down and all that? What time do you do it at? Maybe we can get into that later. For right now, the main thing is be comfortable. Put yourself in a position where you are really comfortable, but maybe aren't going to fall asleep. And if you did fall asleep, that just means your body needs to rest, of course. But comfort is number one. I love reclining chairs because I feel like it keeps me alert, but I can also like lean back and chill out. I love images like leaf floating in the wind or laying on a raft. I like those kinds of feelings of floating because I feel like I'm at my best, whether it's sports or anything in life, when I'm sort of in that flow. Okay? Um, Turn cell phones, of course, on mute if they aren't already. So you want to eliminate any distractions possible and be open to the possibilities. I would leave you on that note. Just be real open. I'm going to pretty much take you through it. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm going to guide you through this whole thing. And so hopefully that gives you some relief, like, okay, I don't have to do anything. We'll talk about this afterward. This is your time now to just chill out, enjoy a nice meditation, and we'll see you when you come back. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and feel free to close your eyes. You don't have to, that tends to help out, is I want you to first be aware of your body. I want you to be aware of where we are right now. I want you to start getting present. So your thoughts may still be thinking about something from today or something from tonight. And I want you to do your best to start to really arrive to where we are, because we're here. Another thing that helps is to start to try to get still. There's a very powerful connection with the mind and the body. So as you start to still the body, it gives the mind a chance to also still and slow down and quiet. So just be aware of your body now, starting to get very comfortable in your chair or laying down. Again, any thoughts that come up are not right or wrong, just let them be. And just start to bring your awareness to your body. And the next thing I want you to do is starting with your feet, is I want you to notice whatever is supporting your feet. So if it's the floor, the ground, the carpet, and I want you to really allow the feet and what's supporting you to connect. I want you to sort of let the feet go, in other words, and let whatever's physically there supporting it do the work. So this is a great way to start to let go and release and relax. And I want you to do the same thing as you move up the body with anything that is physically holding you in place. If that's the chair or the bed or the couch, just notice what part of your body is touching something physical. So besides the feet, you'll probably notice parts of your thighs, parts of your glutes, parts of your lower mid back. And try to really connect, get the feeling of, oh, this physical chair or ground or couch is holding me in place. If it wasn't there, in other words, I would free fall. I would free fall through space. So again, you're not trying to let go as much as you're allowing that which is holding you in place to do the work. So take a moment with that. Really try to get that feeling of allowing that which is supporting you to do the work. And you may have noticed the body started to lighten up a bit or soften a bit or maybe get a little heavier. Just continue to go with that sensation, that feeling. Thoughts may come in the mind, no problem. Just keep coming back to that which is supporting you, holding you in place. Next thing I would like you to do is start to turn your attention to your breathing. And just take a moment and acknowledge your breath. Really appreciate your breath. I mean, it keeps us alive 24 hours a day. So clearly it's very important. And just start to tune into your breathing and again, acknowledge it, appreciate it, notice it. And just see if you can notice it finding its own pace and its own rhythm. So you don't have to try to breathe a certain way at this point. It's very fascinating when you watch your breath without manipulating it. It's just letting nature do its thing. If any thoughts come in the mind, just be neutral, just let them be. And just keep coming back to the breath. Just know the breath is very nurturing and very supportive. There's a feeling like coming home with the breath. Just trust the breath. And when you feel the next inhalation come to you as an instinct, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to attach a number one to that. You can visualize a number one. You can write a number one on a chalkboard. You can visualize your body as a number one. And then at some point as the breath releases on the exhale, just attach a number two to that. And then when the next inhale comes back as a reflex, change the number to 3. And what I'd like you to do for the next couple of minutes is just stay with the breath and just count the breath to 20 or so. Just see if you can stay really connected to the pace of the breath and the counting of the breath, and just keeping your awareness there. If any thoughts come in the mind, they're not right or wrong. Just let the thoughts be. And just keep coming back to the breath. And then at some point, as you start to get close to 20 or so, if it feels good to keep counting the breath, just continue on. Otherwise, feel free to completely let go of any kind of format and just chill out, relax, get on your magic carpet ride. This is your time. You don't have to be anywhere or do anything. Just give yourself permission now to completely let go. Just enjoy some quiet time. Again, you don't have to do anything. And then at some point, you'll hear my voice again come back in. But until then, just completely let go. Just relax. Let the breath take you anywhere it wants to go. If any thoughts come into mind, that's okay. Just continue to come back to the breath or come back to silence. Just really trust this space, the silence. So at this point, we're just going to slowly start to transition ourselves back to where we are. And we're going to take our time. So just continue in the space you're in. And just start to bring your awareness back to your breath if you're not there, which is fine. You could be anywhere. And when you feel the next inhale, what I'd like you to do is just gently exaggerate that breath a little bit. Just take in a little bit more air than normal. And as you inhale that breath, I'd like you to just hold it for a moment or two. And as you exhale the breath, try to exhale the breath as smoothly and slowly as you can. And just let yourself know that you're beginning to feel completely alert and completely refreshed, very present, very focused. And I'd just like you to continue this for about 3 or 4 more breaths. So again, on the next inhale, just gently take in a little bit more air than normal. And just hold the breath for a moment or two. And as you exhale the breath, just try to exhale it very evenly and very smoothly. And again, just remind yourself that you're beginning to feel completely alert and completely refreshed, very clear, very present, very focused. And again, when the next inhale comes back to you instinctively, just expand the breath a bit. And again, hold it for a moment or two. And again, as you exhale the breath, exhale it as fluidly and smoothly as you can. Again, letting yourself know you're beginning to feel even more refreshed and more alert, very clear, very energized. And just kind of continue to do this process on your own for a couple more breaths. And just sort of slowly transition yourself back to where you are, feeling completely refreshed and completely alert. Energized, inspired. So maybe one last good deep breath here again, taking a little more air than normal. Hold the breath for just a moment or two and release the air very fluidly and very smoothly and very evenly. And remind yourself you're beginning to feel completely alert and completely refreshed, and very focused, very present, very inspired. So as you start to make your way back, one of my favorite things to do after all these years still is close your eyes for a moment and just imagine if you were to play in a sporting event or ping pong or pool, or if you were going to give a speech. Try to imagine where you were 15 minutes ago before the meditation, and then do a little inventory on where you're at now. And just be honest. Ask yourself, how you feel you would do now versus 15 minutes ago, and if anything changed, and if anything changed for the better. And just think about that for a moment or two. And then that's going to be our first round of feedback, and then we'll get to some questions. So again, just think about where you were 15 minutes ago, and think about where you are now. So at this point, we would love feedback. So if you want to share how you're feeling now versus 15 minutes ago, you can just raise your hand. And honestly, if you want to just unmute yourself, we'd appreciate it if you turn your camera on, but yeah, I guess you don't have to. You definitely don't have to. So, Brendan, 12:30 a.m. in Nashville. That's a good thing. Maybe we'll tell that story at the end. So we'd love some feedback. Does anybody want to share where they're at now, especially someone that maybe did this for the first time? Love to hear any feedback. So fire away. Brandon, I see the hand up. I love the real hand. So Brendan, fire away. Tell us about how you're doing.
Yeah, I've been doing this every day since Nashville, and like I mean, there's no joke about it. Like I've actually my body has changed the way I wake up every morning, the way I go to sleep at night. And we've been talking about, we do it with our boys now, especially my pitchers before, after we throw, after a bullpen. And I mean, they've changed their daily routine and how they throw. And but personally, I mean, I just like 15 minutes earlier, I was excited about this, and now I'm back to that free state, that mental state of just clarity, and ready to keep going.
And how would you describe, and hey, Brendan, I just did two and two. I got you now, brother. How would you describe, just, relatively in a nutshell, 15 minutes ago, where were you at?
I mean, definitely a little cluttered after a long day at school and this cold weather that we've been having. And now it's just, body's warm and mind is mind's free. Nothing coming in, nothing going out. Um, just free. That's all it is.
Just awesome, Brendan. Thanks, brother. Um, Anybody else want to share? We'd like at least maybe two more if possible, like anything that happened in the last 15 minutes. Any insights? Hi, Tamara. And then Chris will
I
go next to you.
I feel like I've melted into my chair.
Hmm.
I just feel so relaxed and I'm tired. So like Brendan was saying, after a long day, I realize I haven't slept enough. I feel so calm, like nothing could faze me right now. Just so physically present here.
I mean, there's just a big wow. Thank you, Tamara. I mean,
Thank you.
you make
Hey,
me feel more relaxed just the way you're talking.
Alan, let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
So, especially because we are at the end of most everyone's day. I know Alan's day is just getting started, but for the rest of us, we're sort of. I assure you that if you in like intentionally do this as you lay down in your bed, you will literally coast yourself into the best sleep you've had all week. And I think that's sometimes when you try to get your players to buy in, like, hey, just try before you go to sleep. Just to start taking big deep breaths, just start relaxing, just start trying to just calm your mind and just do it with your breath. And they will literally text you later or call, see you at practice and go, coach, that's the best I've ever slept. Yeah, you just calmed your mind. All right. And that's again just an easy practice to put into play tonight if you wanted to.
And when I first started out, and then Chris, I'm sorry, we'll get right to you. When I first started out, 1992, I did my first sort of real internship with a team. It was Cal Lutheran with Rich Hill. and shout out Rich. And there was a player on the team that was having issues with sleeping. And so we talked about that exact thing, about doing some meditation in bed, and it really helped him. And so, I just feel like it's like an endless well. It's just a bottomless pit of benefits, really. You could apply meditation or this philosophy to anything in life, but I appreciate you bringing that up, Sheets. And Chris, and then Mickey, I'm coming to you next. I don't know why, man. I just feel like there was something going on there, and but not putting you on the spot. Chris, fire away.
Well, and hopefully can you hear me okay, Alan?
Mm-hmm.
So what you guys don't know before this call, I lost my car keys, and I've been frantically running around the house trying to find my car keys, right? And had a bunch of anxiety just because I'm thinking about the stupid car keys, right? And so we just went through this mindfulness session, and that anxiety is gone. And so it just made me think about my players, right? The anxiety they have when they're about to go up on the mound, or maybe they don't have a good game and they've got to face mom or dad or whatever, right? Girlfriends or social media, and it just goes away, right? It just takes it all away. So it's whatever. I'll find the keys, right? And there'll be another at bat. There'll be another time to pitch or whatever. But yeah, it just takes the anxiety away. Someone wrote numb on the chat, and I just couldn't think that's a great word for it.
Numb is an interesting word because I think sometimes there could be a negative connotation, but I look at numb as probably a lot of us feel after a good meditation. Again, I use the zone as a metaphor a lot. And when you're in the zone, it's more like, yeah, like the flow, but it's that idea that there's no stimulation that's affecting you, right? There's no distractions. I guess you're kind of numb to it, if you will. But I see that as a huge positive as well, Chris. And that's a first, by the way, in 33 years. I've never had someone post meditation talk about how they had lost their keys. And first of all, just that you made the Zoom, knowing you lost your keys, man, was already a huge plus. So thank you. Mickey, I'm just joking, man. You just happened to be dead center when I was looking, and you don't have to. We don't ever want to put anybody on the spot, but you just sort of looked like you were settling in. So, you want to share?
Yeah, I don't mind. I know I reached out to you guys, and I was talking a little bit about the time that my dad kind of led me through a visualization practice. I think I was 12 years old, and we're driving in the truck, and there was some history behind it, and he was kind of bringing me back into being happy around the game of baseball. And so he kind of took me through I guess it was a guided meditation. It was a little bit more visualization towards the end. But what we just went through, I mean, it kind of put me back in that passenger seat. And I liked what you were talking about with the freedom and the structure, the unstructured free time. He kind of made it there was a little bit more structure, where he took me to the grassy area with the wind on your face, and just that place where you can be calm and you don't want to move. But getting there on your own it was fascinating. Obviously something that stuck with me since I was, for the last 25 years or so. And being able to go back to that tonight was pretty powerful. So.
Awesome. Difference between now versus 15 minutes ago? What changed?
I think 15 minutes ago, I'm sitting here trying to think of how I can take as many notes as I can so that I can deliver it as best I can to my guys. And now I'm in much more of a place of, it's going to be what it's going to be, and that's as good as it needs to be. I'm a terrible overthinker. And so being able to take that step back and being able to find the way to get out of my thoughts and let the thoughts get out of my way. That's the best way I'm going to be the best for my guys. So
I'm going to give you a good word for you, Mickey, which I think everybody will appreciate, and the word is allow. One thing you can do in meditation is sort of similar to what I said earlier about thoughts aren't right or wrong. This is a different spin on it, but it can be very powerful, and this can really help you with life. Is when you sit there and you be neutral, so to speak, and thoughts come up, allow them to be there. You're just redirecting, you're being neutral, we talked about, and you're just redirecting your attention, which is not a thought, somewhere else, right? It can be very, very cathartic to where instead of hearing all the thoughts and thinking there's stuff you have to do about it and getting into that conversation with them, you kind of do the opposite. You allow them to be there, but you just don't take the dance. Does that make sense? It could really, really help.
absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to go to Q&A. Before we do that, I want to hit on, and then Sheets, if you got something to jump in on here on too as well. Neutral and redirect attention. Those were your tools, right? So again, we're trying to give you a very bare bone guided meditation for your kids, but we also want to make sure that these two tools are very, very clear, because these are very, very instrumental, not only in helping the meditation have a chance to really go smoothly and effectively, but again, I want you to make the connection with these tools with life. So does anybody want to talk about if thoughts came up, they remember to be neutral, they were able to not take the dance, they were able to put their attention somewhere else? If one or two of you had an experience with that, it would be very helpful to hear from you, because that's really a massive part of tonight, believe it or not, is just knowing those two tools. Anybody? Nobody?
I'll
Al-
jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I'm in the floor kind of hiding from my family right now. And my wife walked in the room kind of mid flow state and starts asking me questions, and kind of shoot her away, kind of say, I'm in the middle of something right now. And then was able to, just kind of go back to the breath. And so, the kind of a major disruption when I was feeling great at the time. And then, she comes in, and I had that moment of just kind of being annoyed, and, the closed door wasn't enough of a hint for her. And, kind of like, oh man, now I'm out of it. And then I was, able to come back to it and refocus on the breath and get back into it. And that was really kind of cool that, I realized, kind of after the fact, like, oh yeah, I was able to lock back in. So.
Do you feel like you were kind of consciously or unconsciously aware that that was just sort of kind of being neutral to the situation and not, or was it something you just sort of did instinctively?
I just, I think I did it kind of instinctively, just, okay, don't be frustrated. Don't be mad. It's going to ruin the whole rest of the experience. Don't let that moment, ruin the rest. And then, come back to the breath, and felt, a lot better after, kind of coming out of it, waking up or whatever, that, I was like, all right, I was able to do that. And, holy cow, what if my players can start to work on something like that, right? What if we can get that bad call, or, deal with that adversity, refocus, come back to it? That's super powerful if we can get our guys there. So really cool.
Very cool. You become what you practice, right?
Absolutely.
Chris, did you want to add something about neutral?
Yeah, well, Steve nailed it. I mean, it's again, it was amazing to me sitting here how many different thoughts come into your brain that try and like almost are fighting or attacking what it is you're trying to do. I don't know if that's subconscious mind or what that is, but I'm sure I wasn't the only one that had other thoughts trying to creep in. whether it was the keys or the, just other things that try and, I don't know, was I the only one that had that? It just sounds like, I know Steve and I did, but it's just, again, redirecting back to what you're trying to do in that moment.
Yeah, no, according to the research, this is from Shauna Shapiro, actually, the average, not sure exactly what that means, but the average human mind, I don't know if it's in our country alone, but has supposedly 70,000 thoughts a day. And so the fact that our brain has a lot of practice at thinking, Chris, yes, it's very, very normal, which is another reason why meditation is so important, because we have a lot of practice at the noise, at the thinking that's creating the noise. We're trying to get to a quiet place. Remember, the zone is a non-thinking, quiet, free. If you looked at Tamara when she was giving her explanation of how she felt, it was like the zone incarnate, right? So yes, it's very normal to have the thoughts going on, but that's why this practice is, for me, imperative, because without the practice, yeah, could you be in the zone without meditating? Of course, but I think that our minds have so much practice. And again, we have to remember we're in a certain generation. We've got kids who have grown up in a generation unlike ours, where we don't know what it's like to look at a cell phone as often as I mean, we do maybe now in a different way, but they're at those formative years with the cell phone, with the video games, the technology, social media, going through COVID. And we have to remember they're coming to practice, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to a quieter, calmer, clearer, more present state. It just makes too much sense to that of the value. So I think we want to make sure we leave a little bit of time here for some questions, because out of the questions always seem to come way more, a lot more depth and information. Sheets, do you want to throw out anything before the Q&A?
No, I'd love to hear where everyone's coming from and kind of what questions they have. How can we empower you to go out and run this?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is our goal. Like, yes, we've been talking about a lot of things tonight, but we want you to get off of this Zoom call tonight and say, okay, yes, we have resources we're going to send you to, or that you have, but we just want you to feel like when I go out there tomorrow, even if I'm not great at this, I've got an idea about getting present, maybe doing some counting with the breath, maybe some quiet time, and then maybe some affirmations to bring them out like I took you guys through. We just want you to feel, as Sheets said earlier, empowered, and we want you to feel comfortable. And I know Sheets has said this before as a reminder, you do not have to be great at this, especially right away. It's just about the doing. Just do this every day. We have a feeling you're going to get good at it, or pretty good, but it's still about the doing. It's still about the stopping. So this is your time. As far as troubleshooting any of the script or any questions in general. So just go ahead and unmute yourself. And I got one from Greg. We'll take this first, but after this one, you guys can actually unmute yourself so that way everybody can hear the question, although this is fine. He put breath, strictly breathe, or no, strictly nose, in through nose, out through mouth. So the rule of thumb is this: it's most optimal to breathe through your nose and out your nose. One of the main reasons why is you oxygenate your brain in both directions. When you're doing cardio and you need breath, you'll tend to need to breathe through the mouth to get the breath faster. I know there's a great book by James Nestor that I haven't read yet on breathing, but I'm sure he goes into gory detail on the proper ways to breathe. But from my experience, and I do have a yoga background as well, and maybe things have changed, but from my experience, it's as long as the person doesn't have issues with breathing through the nose, you want to go in through the nose and out through the nose. So that's a good question, Greg, for everybody to hear. So thank you.
Questions?
Sheets, do you do this before practice or after? Have you tried either way? Which one works the best?
I have only done it before, and that's worked extremely well. I've got buddies that do it after, and it's kind of like a wrap up thing for the day. The where I land on it, I think Alan would probably agree, is man, I want to start our day with this. I want, for us, and again, for most of us, we're practicing like after school. For our guys, they have class from like 8 to noon. We have classroom at 1:25. We meditate right after classroom, and I'm trying to help them sort of like cut their day in half. So whatever they woke up with, had a fight with their girlfriend the night before, went to sleep on it, woke up, still pissed off about it. Mom called, they got financial issues, they got to pay a bill, no gas in my car, whatever those things are. When they get to that meditation space, that mindfulness for us, when they get there, they can use that practice to completely chop the day in half and go, giving myself a gift. I don't have to worry about those things for the next 2.5 hours. Now you certainly can. You can also think about the mistake you made last week from the past, or the test that you have next week, or the paper you have to write tonight in the future. But if you want to give yourself a gift, give yourself the next 2.5 hours or the next 2 hours, whatever you've got in your practice. Separate the day, wipe the slate clean. Like for old school Nintendo people, hit the reset button and just, this is my day. This is where my focus is. Our goal is to get the best versions of our guys to the ballpark every training session. Because if he's walking in taking BP with a burden of stress, he's not taking very good BP. He's not at his best. He's not going to make adjustments. He's not going to be happy. He's not going to smile. He's not going to literally use practice as his safe haven away from that. Because the beauty of it, the girlfriend will still be pissed off at him at 5:05 when practice is over. He can talk to mom at 5:15 after he calls his girlfriend for 10 minutes and then gets hung up on. He can call mom at 5:15. But mom, the girlfriend, the paper, all that does not have to be at practice. So that's why I like to start it, to give them that opportunity to sort of, as Alan said, get in that continuum and get into that meditative state. Because the more you become what you practice, the more they stand up and they go to stretch and they go to all the stations and stuff we got going. When they find themselves maybe creeping back towards that girlfriend thought, they can stop and go. And because we've built that connection with breath, that breath brings them right back to that state. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 and it brings them right back. I think before practice, that's my vote.
And I'll just add on top of that, because it's all right on. When people ask me about meditation, just in general for life, it's always the same answer. First thing in the morning, if possible, because you want to not only start your day from a clear space, but as she's just said, it is so cool and powerful to have this point of reference. In other words, like when I laid down at Georgia Gwinnett last month, it was a very deep 20 minutes, and I come out of it. Now I've been doing this for a very long time, but the fact that I was on the other side of it and coming out of practice, my whole world shifted. Like Tamara, I just felt completely shifted. And whatever I had kind of with like Chris, or Steve, like whatever I had going on, it was a distant memory, honestly. I'm not just saying that to plug it. And I was immersed and happy and free and you name it, like hearing Tamara talk a second ago. So this for me is a very important question and point, which is, yes, Sheets has the great team room for 20 minutes and everybody gets checked in and connected and go over some stuff. But I'm telling you, you walk out of that team room down the stairs to the batting cage. The meditation is actually already starting to happen with these guys from doing it every day. It's beautiful. They lay down. I mean, you wouldn't believe it how quickly they lay down and how quiet it is instantly. And when that 20 minutes is done, and it's not a 20, it's a deep, trust me, Sheets is all over it. It's a deep meditation. And when these kids come out, man, as he said, if something does come up, maybe an hour later, they've got this deep point of reference, this connector, and it's very, very powerful. So yes, at the beginning of practice, if you do this yourself or a player asks you about the best time to meditate, it really is first thing in the morning if possible. Your mind is also a lot clearer and relaxed, tends to be first thing in the morning. So love it. Steve, we actually have we have a hand up. So Steve, jump in, man.
All right, guys. What about like the physical environment? I mean, you show up to a cold weather. I'm a high school coach. We show up to a cold weather game. It's freezing. The grass is wet. You know, tough to get locked in on, you know, your thoughts when you're shivering, you know. So do you guys have any, you know, go-to tricks? You know, obviously we can't carry around sleeping bags and stuff like that and roll them out. So, you know, what do you got for the physical comfort?
Did you take vans or a bus to the game?
No, see that we basically budget and COVID and all that kind of stuff. We drive ourselves to games, so we don't really have a, you know, especially on a road trip, we don't have we show up in cars and we don't have a time to be kind of together until we're in the dugout.
Okay. So I'll give you a couple thoughts. One would be maybe you do the meditation before you leave, because then you have control over the space. Maybe you go inside the gym or you go inside your baseball space, do the meditation before you drive over. That's an option. The other one would be, and I'm pretty good at this. I think most baseball folks are. There's an open door somewhere. So generally, and I've done this at different spots. We park the bus. We're there early. They're setting up the field, and maybe it's chilly, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to stand out here, and I don't want to. There's the gym. Hey, I'm gonna walk over to the gym real quick, see if I can find an open door. I'll find an open door. We did this at one school. I'll walk the team right in the middle of the basketball court. It's warm in there. And we lay down, the lights were already off. And we laid down and did our meditation in there. By the time we were done and then walking out to leave, a coach had walked in and goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" I go, "Nothing now. You're good, man. Gym's yours." And so sometimes it's being creative and finding a place that you can get away. The other part would be the dugout. And the dugout is, I had a high school team a year ago that they meditated before every game in the dugout. And you'll have guys that, you know, will sit with their back up and obviously their feet on the ground, their hands on their lap, and they'll sit there. We had some that laid down just in the dugout floor. But remember, you have the dugout walls to sort of protect you maybe from the elements, but it's definitely a better place, like you said, than getting outside in the wind or laying on wet grass. Or you just got to get creative. And if the kids really want it, man, you'll find a way to get it done somehow. I'll probably assure you that.
And also, if there's a will, there's a way. Steve, it's a great question, but you have to remember this too. If you've been meditating with them for every day for, let's say, even a month, and you have a game and it's really cold when you get there, trust me, the kids are going to want to figure out a way too. I love the idea of the dugout. You know, if you get everybody close together in the dugout, of course, that creates some heat. But if these kids really do buy in and they do this because you've been doing this for a month straight or what have you, you can have a little mini edict like, hey, when you show up, we're getting there early, stay in the car, get your meditation in the car as well as a worst case scenario. But again, as Sheet said, before you leave your place, have them get to the locker room or clubhouse 20 minutes early, if possible. In an absolute worst case scenario at the field, even if they are shivering a little bit, that's part of it, right? If they're going to be playing in that weather, they can meditate. You know, it's not ideal, but they'll acclimate to it. And I think at the end of the day, if there's a will, there's a way. As Sheet said, be creative. Call ahead. If you know you're playing a school ahead of time and everybody's showing up without a bus, call the coach if you can and just say, hey, do you guys have a weight room, a something room that we can maybe sneak in, a shed? Give us anything where we can just get a little bit of warmth. And so again, it's making it a priority and thinking ahead.
Steve, the last thing on this, we went to an away game 2-3 years ago in vans, and I was in one van, had two guys in the other, and I called them on a 3-way call, and I said, put me on speakerphone. and I sat in my van with on speakerphone with a phone in each of the other vans, and I gave the meditation through the phone. We used to do it on the bus before we got off. Again, now we've gotten to the place where it's like, nah, we're getting off this bus and we'll go somewhere. We'll figure it out. Cause again, you just where there's a will, there's a way.
It's funny when you came to regionals. Sorry, Claude, we'll get right to you.
Yeah.
Quick story. When Georgia Gwinnett came to regionals up near Santa Barbara, I got there nice and early for the meditation, and it was cool because they started surveying the area, backfields, trying to figure out where it was going to get done, and we moved around a little bit and we found our spot, and then it was on.
It's awesome.
Claude, fire away, buddy.
Yeah, just for sheets. Just out of curiosity, is there any difference in the way you format your meditations on a practice day versus a game day?
No consistency. I'm again, nothing special, nothing changes. I think when you're trying to build consistency, I know I do this, like it's and I make a joke out of it. It's our first game, right? It's our big game, first game. Oh, everybody, first game, coach. Here we go. All the kids, their parents, their girlfriend. It's first game. It's a game. And for me, it's a continuation of our training. Nothing special, nothing changes. So it's the same way, I don't have a big ball buster speech ready for my guys. Nothing special, nothing changes. We're going to do our classroom. We're going to clap. We're going to do our classroom. We're going to double clap Ric Flair. We're going to go meditate. We're going to stand up and stretch. We're going to take BP, and it's going to feel like a continuation of training. Oh, but another team showed up. They're wearing a different color. No, I keep it very relatable. They don't same music. Like I keep everything as a constant flow. Because that's where I'm trying to get them to.
And that goes to something we didn't talk about tonight, but the process. If you are really trying to get your kids consistent and into this routine of the process, then there isn't any such thing as a game or practice anymore. I mean, I know we can sit here and talk about why they are different, but to me, that's the elite of the elite state of mind. When you get to a point where you're so consumed by seeing the ball well and hitting it hard, or seeing your focal point and attacking it, and smiling and having fun and breathing, like that's what you're consumed by. It's not that the uniform's on or not. It's not that there's an opponent there. And that's why it's so important, as she said, like they just keep this mantra going. It's a mantra. There happen to be people in the other dugout, sure. They're just taking care of their process. But it's a really good question, Claude, because it brings up other points about, practice versus game. And by the way, that's one of the strengths of doing all the meditation all fall, so to speak, is that when games maybe get more important, there's that really deep underlying theme that's familiar to them of getting connected, getting to their breath. She uses the word trust a lot, the care factor, the selflessness. A lot of principles that go on at Georgia Gwinnett come out of the meditation. And that's just beautiful that that's happening every day. And that keeps the consistency going too, even if variables are changing around them. Another huge benefit to having a meditation practice every day. That becomes a foundation for them to rely on. Alex, what do you got, buddy? I feel something coming out of you. No pressure.
First off, thank you guys for doing this, but I don't know if you guys, I reached out to Sheets about 2 weeks ago on Twitter, first year head coach down in Florida, trying to get, them back into mental practice. I mean, they were state semifinalists last year, and I think some things just kind of didn't go their way towards the end of the year. And I think it was more mental more than physical. So I reached out to Sheets, just try to get a barometer of how he goes about doing it before and after and all that sort of stuff. I'll tell everyone on this call that hasn't done it yet, your first day you do it, you're a nervous wreck. you're like, are they going to do it right? Are you, what are you going to say? How are you going to do it? But we've been doing it for about a week or so now, a week so yesterday. And I can already tell some kids are already buying into the situation, buying into the process of doing it, trying to figure out, you know, how to find their peace, basically, how to find their process. Kind of my main question for you all, and mainly for Sheets, would be, you know, when did you feel you had everyone, so to speak? You know, when did you kind of feel you had kind of literally just every single player in what they needed to go? Did it take, you know, a whole season to feel that? Did it, you know, half a year? You know, kind of how does, because we didn't start this till, you know, like I said, 2 weeks ago. So it's been a little interesting transition from the former coach to myself. So
4 years. I know that doesn't help your patience. No, I think year one, you know, and I sort of chronicled this in a tweet a few years back. Day one, what are we doing? What is this? We're laying down, but it's hot. I'm going to fall asleep. I don't know about this. And just trust me. Just again, guys, I know first year head coach, you just got to trust me. First session, they sit up and they go, what the heck just happened? Yeah, man. Imagine if we keep doing this. If we keep, you know, eventually a group shifts over and they're all in. A group shifts and goes, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm just sleepy. Maybe it's a 20-minute nap. Okay, I'll just nap. And I battled this for a couple of years, man. I got college kids, you know, I got kids. Sometimes that they, especially high school folks, like they're worried that when they lay down and they close their eyes, some of them are worried they're going to fall asleep. Like they'll fidget so they don't fall asleep because they don't want to snore. They don't want to be the person. They also don't want everybody to be done with it and they're asleep because now they're the person everybody makes fun of that fell asleep. Like there's a whole lot of like insecurities and self-esteem and the cool factor. There's all these things. And I think the way you cut through it, Alex, and anybody on the call, the way you cut through it, I think as the moderator, is I always come back to, you get out of it what you put into it. You know, stillness is the key. Let's try to stay as still as possible. If you can stay on these cues, if you can trust your breath, like Alan said, I'm giving like program reminders, cultural reminders, environmental reminders inside of my meditation. I'm brainwashing these cats 100%. I'm brainwashing them. I'm getting them where I want them. I'm getting them exactly where I want them. And what it also allows me to do is watch, and I watch a kid that sort of fidgets and he doesn't really follow the cues. And then I'll find a way to bring him in the office, go, hey, so I don't know, how connected are you with this meditation? I remember I called Alan one time. I had this little left-handed pitcher, and 2 years, and he just is like, he kind of moves. It's like I'm kind of wasting, like he's got 20 minutes just to lay there. And I went, if you buy into this, I promise you'll see the benefit. Well, guess what? Year 3, he's bought fully in, and he's pitching at his best right now. And he just laughs. He goes, I was an immature punk, and I just didn't want to jump in and like. So it takes time, and it's like recruiting. It happens at different points for different people. I think the more that you stay consistent with your message, I think the more you bring it back to, it's about care level. It's about me giving this gift to you. Then it's about you acknowledging and giving the gift to yourself. I think it's affirming behavior on the field. So when you see these moments where they step off the mound, they collect themselves, like especially the kid that you know is like all in on this, and you watch him step off the mound. He just walked a guy. He processes the moment. When he steps back on the rubber, throws a strike, maybe goes and strikes out the next guy. Dude, I will call the whole team on the mound and affirm that behavior. This is why we meditate every single day, is for that moment. That moment is a microcosm of what this mindfulness training can do for you. So I think, again, at the end of the day, like you're trying to create buy-in, but buy-in is what they trust, and they have to trust you. And part of the trust is the consistency, the care level, the reaffirming, and it's constant. And there's this point where they're just getting, this ain't going away. By the way, I'll see you tomorrow at mindfulness. Whether you're here or not, I'll see you tomorrow at mindfulness. And I think at some point, man, they have to tip over. And if you have a team meeting session, ask a question that is relating back to this mindfulness to get a player to start talking about it and make it part of the conversation. They're going, well, am I the only one that's not bought into this? It's on you, babe. I'd love to have you. I'll help you any way I can. I told Alan this a couple days ago, and I'm done with this, is I've started just to again, like, continue to keep the pulse. Again, guys, if you've got questions, you want to come talk to me. Hey, I'm working through something. I've got a little hurdle I came upon. I find myself doing this. Come talk to me. The first day I said that, I had about 7 or 8 guys grab me at various points in practice and go, Coach, can we talk about mindfulness? Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And all of it is, Coach, I love it. It's awesome. This is great. Can you help me through this? Absolutely. Let me help you through that. So I think they're more there than you think, but I think the more you're consistent with it, the more that they see that, man, this dude loves us, man. He's given this to us. Let's take advantage of it. Hope that helps.
And I just wanted to add a couple things because you made so many good points, Sheets. Part of what he said is, Alex, is by you being present and bringing it to them, boy, there's more going on than meets the eye. I always joke with Sheets about this word visceral.
Mm.
When you're authentic and you're really bringing something that's sort of like soul to soul, and you're making a difference in their lives, man, it's happening on a different level. Now, they may on the surface still poo-poo it a bit, and you may not get everybody on day one, but they know you care, the care factor Sheets talks about. And it's just one of those things I think you just keep doing it as he said. You keep establishing that's a major foundation of your program. Other kids talk, kids that are having success with it will talk to other kids like, man, I've never felt so relaxed in the batter's box in my life. And I know exactly why, right? So part of the beauty is that they'll talk. And as Sheets said, very important, engage them. Engagement in a group, but also go up to some kids that maybe early on you think are not so into it and just say, hey, from a very loving place, just say, hey, what do you got? You having some trouble with this? Do you not like it? Can we talk about it? You never know, but the bottom line is I think if you just sort of keep showing up and being real, and like Sheets just said, this is how I'll see you tomorrow at the meditation, and you make it a very open environment. I think kids are just going to fall in, because remember something I said at the beginning, the kids are starving for it. They are. We may project onto them that maybe they're going to poo-poo it, maybe they're not going to like it as much as I think. Give it a chance. These kids are starving.
One thing they realized, they better be in the shade though in this Florida heat. It was 85 today, so they were all in the shade.
So,
The
Hey.
first day they were out in the sun, they didn't like that very much.
It's
We've-
still about the doing.
yeah,
No matter
it is.
where you do it, it's daily. That's why Sheets and I just joke about it every single day. I know it sounds funny. It's very powerful when you can say every single day. That's real. That's letting people know, like, this is it. This is real. And by the way, last thing I'll say, and then we're going to get to William. Think about this. You're the leader of the ship. If you show up to practice every day, inspired, excited, motivated to do this, and have a off the wall belief level in it, that's it. Kids get that. If they don't get it on day one, maybe day 20, maybe day 60. In Sheets' case, maybe it's a couple years, but you're showing up and you're presenting it. And trust the fact that these kids are going to come around. And if they don't come around in your tenure, you will have given them one of the greatest gifts of their life that may come back to them 2 years later because of you. or 4 years later. But what you're doing with them now is going to be great no matter what, even if you don't think they're totally buying in. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for letting me call on you. Us calling
Yeah.
you. William, if you want, we got the polite hand up, so fire away, bud.
Thanks for doing this, guys. And you kind of answered my question already, answering Alex's question, but I'll ask it anyway to see if you have anything more to say. What do you say to the player who asks, like, why are we doing this? Like, it's easy for me as a coach to see the value in this, but what do you say to those guys that say, like, what's the reason for this? Why are we doing this?
How long do you got to answer? Like,
I'll give you my one line, and then Sheets, you can
sure.
draw out your haymaker. My one line, William, and it's a fair question, especially for the younger
Yeah.
kids. I always try to hit them where in the core, where we really can feel it. And I try to use terminology that makes sense to them. So I'll do it with you, William, okay? You come to me and you say, hey, Alan, like, let's say you're an attorney and you argue cases in court, but you haven't been doing as well in court, and you're stressed out, you're overthinking, you're anxious, right? Whatever. Your performance in the court is not near where it could be, right? And you're like, yeah, but I don't know about this mental training stuff. And so what I would say is I go, well, let me ask you a question, William. If your mind was 50% clearer than it is now, would you do better in court? You'd say, absolutely. How about if you were 75% more relaxed than you are now? Would you argue your case better? Oh, absolutely. We can do the same thing, by the way, if you're a surgeon, right? Or a pitcher or a golfer. And if I said, what if your mind was super quiet, so you didn't even have that many thoughts on your mind, or you didn't really notice any distraction? So what I'm doing, as you can see, is my dad's an attorney. I'm giving you some line of questioning where I'm kind of putting the facts at you, to where instead of me trying to persuade you or tell you what you should think, I'm just trying to let you do the math. And you're like, well, if I'm more relaxed, I'm more clear-minded, I'm less stressed, I'm less anxious, I'm more present, I'm less in the future, I'm less in the past. And I said, oh, do you realize all of those things that we just talked about are skills? Being more relaxed is a skill. Having a clearer mind is a skill. Oh, did you know you can do a mental practice like ground balls and fly balls that are going to help develop those skills? And that to me is sort of where I kind of cut it off, because I feel like at that moment, they're like, oh, got it. We're talking about a practice. What a shock. We do this every single day if you're an athlete, or anybody does a practice. We're doing a practice to develop these skills that are going to enhance you dramatically, not a little bit, but it's because we're doing a practice. And so I would say, William, that's my bullet. Sheets, what do you got?
That's a great answer.
Yeah, and exactly to the point. Like, you would ask the kid, hey, do you feel like you're firing on all cylinders? Do you feel like you're at your best? Like, you're totally in tune. You don't react to umpires. You don't react to walking to guys, striking out. You're performing at an elite level. I think more often than not, they're going to go, no, I could be better. There's areas I need to improve at. Great. This skill, as Alan said, that I want to go practice with you every day, it actually fixes that. It actually gives you an opportunity to address that and improve that and move past that. It's a very, we seek help in all these different areas of our life. If they struggled in math, they would go ask the math teacher for help. You're asking the baseball coach for help. How do I get better at this? I think sometimes they don't realize and haven't had a coach like you, William, that has this belief, has this knowledge base, has this skill set to teach these things, but it's also never been part of the conversation. A lot of teams, a lot of players, a lot of coaches, they just, again, the balls come out every practice and they take BP and we take ground balls, and they have a coach and he shouts at them, again, just shouts, mental toughness stuff, like, but it never has a system a process that allows them to actually understand, number one, be self-aware, which they test the worst at. And then number two, the ability to have a management system of that awareness. Well, now that I know that I do that, I need to learn how to take a deep breath. I think I'm big in emotional intelligence, something I speak a lot about, and I teach our team, but also do a lot of corporate speaking events on emotional intelligence. Why? Because there's not very many emotionally intelligent people. And when you start to recognize how many people lack self-awareness, they do not have a management system of their own self, let alone can pick up on body language cues and others and manage and lead in a way that they manage the relationship because of the connection they have with the person across from them. It's why when you meet someone, and I think that's always a high compliment when someone says, "Hey, when I met you, man, I felt like I was the only person in the room, even though there's 1,000 people around me. I felt like I was the most important." That number one, that's self-awareness. Number two, that's management. Number three, that's literally picking up on, I want to give you something that I know you really want. You want my undivided attention. And that, in essence, builds connection. Most folks test very poorly in all those subjects. Well, you better believe your 14-year-old does. So I think this is a great way to sort of get them to understand this will help you not only as a person, but it'll help you as a baseball player. Can I answer Jonathan's question that he's put in the group, Alan?
Of course.
With limited time and consistency for practice as 11 to 12 coach, what advice for implementing? I think with limited time, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes. I know we did ours tonight for probably 15 or 20, Alan. And again, I know we've talked about ours is 20. It could be 5 minutes. It could be like, as Alan mentioned, maybe it's an arriving meditation. So whenever the whole team gets there, you take the first 3 to 5 minutes and lay down and be quiet, and maybe you lead them through a little bit of breathing, but it can be, it does not have to be a full 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute meditation. Implementing is easy. You make time for it. You again, take 5 minutes. I think the consistency, the lack of consistency of practice is, maybe you give them a little bit of homework. You probably tell them to take swings when they're away from practice, or take ground balls. Maybe part of that is what we talked about earlier. Hey, 3 nights this week, I want you to meditate before you go to sleep. Just give yourself 5 minutes, just like we do every day before practice. Give yourself that 5 minutes. And next time in practice, let's talk about that. Let's take a few minutes and talk about what we felt, what we went through. Again, you're affirming the behavior that you want. That's how I would address it. Don't feel like you have to go forever. You can go for, especially youth players sometimes, and Alan probably has an opinion on this, but sometimes that 5 minutes to them feels like 20, because they definitely do not stop for 5 minutes.
I'll add one word, which I got from my yoga training. It's amazing. That was probably about 30 years ago. And it still sticks out to me. Continuity. That's what
Yep.
Sheets just said. We'd all love to do, I'd love to do 30 minutes actually, but, and you have to know the audience, if they're young kids, but boy, if they just know no matter what, when they show up, whether it's a 30-minute lesson at the academy, oh, by the way, or a game where you just have very limited time, if they know the first 2 to 4 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, they're just going to stop and breathe and get quiet. And that's going to pick up from maybe the meditations the previous week or month where they were able to do 10 or 15 minutes. But that continuity it's just the key. Again, it comes back to this whole symbolism of this is what we do. Like, this is that important, even if we only have 3 minutes. And as Sheet said, arrive. But it's the continuity. When I studied yoga, that was one of the things they said about the practice of yoga. It's just really important to have continuity. But that's, of course, everything in life, right? Well, we're getting close. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. So why don't we start to wrap this up? Is there any other? We're happy to hang out here if you got any other real pressing questions. I know with Sheets' wife, I get in trouble after the once we did the 5 hour and 57 minute. What was the
She referenced it before I walked down the steps.
What,
I just
how many
want you to
minutes
know
was-
that.
What was it? Do you remember? 5?
It was like 5 hours and 5 minutes.
No, I think it was 5:55. No, I think it was almost 6 hours.
Well, either way, it almost got me divorced. So I need to
Okay.
be very conscious of what we're doing here.
It's only 7:20 in LA, so I can hang out. But
True.
but we want to be mindful of your time. We've had, it's amazing. We started with close to, I don't know, 48 or 47. We still have 25 people on 2 hours in. So back to the theme of us feeling inspired. Thank you to everybody. I also want to make a point I should have said at the beginning, but our VP, China McCartney, runs a AAAD nonprofit. It's got free therapeutic resources. I know we've all heard about, more and more serious mental health issues out there. So just keep that in mind. It's AAAD, Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression. And just as a resource, if you know any of your players that are dealing with stuff, Tamara is a great resource as well for anything to do in the mental health field. But I know on behalf of Sheets, and I'll let him say his piece, it just blows us away, to be honest with you, that this many coaches on a Thursday night, when we all tend to have pretty busy lives, made time for this. And as much as anything, I do the numbers, the math. I think about, if you're a coach and you have 30 kids in your program, maybe you have 60 in high school, but I think about the web, the expansion, the exponential factor of, you're touching 30 kids tomorrow maybe, and if there's 45 people on this, that's 1,350 based on 30 kids. You have to remember, those 30 kids, one of the greatest gifts I get from a player I've worked with in the past, or a camp I've done, it might be 25 years later. In fact, it happened at the ABCA show. I had 3 guys that were ironically in our pro camp there. It was bizarre. One was from like one of my first groups, like '94, Matt Wizenut, lefty with the Marlins. And the fact that you could feel like, I guess the effect of that being part of his life, and how they come, you're gonna affect people in ways you have no idea, is my point. So I hope that you have gotten a lot tonight, and enough to where you feel comfortable. And as Sheets will always tell you, we're a DM away. So if you try this tomorrow, as Alex mentioned, like the first day or two, help us, or let us help you troubleshoot. It might just be a couple tweaks here and there, but I think my final note will be, it's still about the continuity and the doing. Whatever you do, whether you think you're doing it right or wrong, just try it. Try it with yourself, or do 2, 3, 4 days in a row with yourself. Give yourself that chance to feel how it feels, because that alone might push you through the door to where you don't care how you do it anymore, because you just want to make sure you bring this to your kids.
I'll add this again. If you didn't hear this earlier and you still need those notes, shoot me a DM. I'll send you that whole folder of again, a lot of things Alan laid out, plus articles that he's written, different live sessions. There's a podcast that we did early with Dugout Chatter. I think it was episode 6. It's 2 hours and 47 minutes. And I believe it's at 1 hour and 35 minutes, I believe. Alan takes us through a guided meditation on air. Because I know the folks that just went through it, you're like, man, I want to do that again. You could go to that podcast. And again, I believe it's 1 hour, 35 minutes. And you could click it and listen to it. And he is taking the entire audience through a guided meditation. You could do that tonight. What you hear is sort of what I think a lot of you are searching for. It's the script. It's kind of it's like Alex, the first time you're nervous. It's that what to say and when to say it. It takes time. You speak from your heart. It won't be perfect. I think part of growth is just like anything, you become what you practice. And the more that you practice it, the better you get, the better you understand pauses, the better you understand space without words, the better you understand flow. You know, Alan's helped me a lot with the tone of my voice and those things that really make big differences. It takes time. The fact that you're on the call means you got serious interest. The fact you stayed on for 2 hours means you're really curious. And that's just, it's a sexy quality to have. You're curious about this. Some of you have been on this before, and I hope that you've now got the power, the confidence, the courage to go do it. And we're here to help. We're here to, if you want to tape a session and send it to either of us, we'll listen and give you some pointers. I mean, we're here on every front to not leave a hurdle in front of you, to bring this to your teams. The benefit is literally effort. If you just put effort towards this, your team will literally see the benefits of it. And you've already taken the first step. Now it's just getting in front of them, asking them to lay down, asking them to close their eyes, and having the confidence to take them through it. And we just want to do anything and everything we can to help you do that.
Just remember, as we started this meeting out tonight, the analogy I used of you dropping your kids off at school. And how cool is it that you have these kids that you can really affect their lives? And some coaches may say, look, I didn't really maybe sign up for that. I shouldn't say it that way, I didn't sign up for it, but you know, it might feel a little bit like, you know, is that really my job too? And maybe you could say that's why you're on here, because you feel like it's starting to feel more and more like part of your world. But I just hope that you take this information and feel like, you know, I got these kids and I got them for 2 hours or 3 hours, and if I can, for 5 minutes, I can do something that's going to really make an impact on their mental health and well-being. What a great opportunity.
Anything else?
Boy, Sheets, this is going to be our short one, man.
Yeah. Hey,
We finally got one under 4 hours.
saving marriages all across the country. Thank you guys.
We appreciate
Appreciate you, Chris.
And like Sheets said, please, even if it's 4 days later or 9 days later, and Jimmy, I'll get with you tomorrow, but please just send us a note. Like Greg's been great. Greg, we get check-ins from Greg. Yeah, send us a note and just say, hey, I did it the other day, and I had players come up to me afterward just thanking me. Whatever, just send us a note, keep us in the loop. We'd love to hear from you guys. And again, I know on behalf of Sheets, we just so appreciate everybody making time to hang out with us and look into this part of the world.
Appreciate you guys.
Okay, we're official. Look at that,
Yep.
7:32. We started about 5:32. Can we ring a bell, please?
Yes. Perfect.
Good luck tomorrow, Sheets.
Yeah. Thanks, boss. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Jimmy, we'll be in touch, bud. Chris,
Thanks, Alan.
thank you for everything and your input. And Derek, we didn't get a chance to say it, but we're going to say hi to you now, Derek.
Hey, thanks very much. Really enjoyed it. Certainly something new that we're trying here in the North, but something we're looking forward to, certainly at school as a teacher each day, but also with the team. So thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you for hanging out, man.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. All right, we're going to sign off. Sheets, I'll give you a quick call.
Okay. I'll be here.
Appreciate you.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. See you guys.
Be in
Take
touch.
it easy.
Appreciate it, guys.
See ya.
Guys.